Well, I hope you guys like manga, because, I think we just gotta read the manga ending. I don't really anticipate we're getting another season, which is a huge bummer, but regardless, we are here to talk about the final episode of Gleipnir, hopefully season 1, but from the looks of it, Gleipnir finale, we too are one. Before we do, though, I do want to say thank you to those of you who stuck with me all the way through Gleipnir. It's been a insane ride, and it's been, it's just been, all in all, a total, confusing, but honestly, way more gripping than I anticipated adventure. And hopefully you'll hit that subscribe button and stick around if you want to see some more content from me. If not, I don't know, maybe I'll see you somewhere out there. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the episode. So we open with the whole "Who am I?" scene. And this is legit an intimidating way to open up the finale, since we know that's clearly Honoka to some degree, and at first, the way that they had established this whole, who am I thing, where, this ghost appears and asks who she is, and if you don't know the answer, then you disappear, right? So I assumed that it was happening at random, but it's either it's not always random, or it's very much not random, because the people who we see get hit by the ghost of Honoka, seemingly, they're not being picked at random. We specifically see that they are targeting the bully, or at least one of the many bullies, who had picked on Pigtails way back when. So this seems less like a random ghost and more like a vengeful spirit. And they seem to be tracking down the people who wronged them in the past, either them or their friends. And I think what made this scene so chilling and a really kind of dramatic and intense way to open the episode is that the music was perfectly quiet yet creepy and really fit the scene quite well. And the whole quietness, because it's not silent, like I said, there's music, there's voice acting, there's small sounds, but it's all very hush. It's very quiet. It's very understated, and I think that actually helped to make it more creepy. It was genuinely oh, it's so unsettling. It's just such a creepy way to open the episode, and it really kind of sets the tone for what's coming, since it's just this sort of creepy, you're starting to put pieces together, especially after last week, about what's going down. And we start to kind of see those pieces start to kind of roll into motion throughout the episode. As an example, we have the reunion at the parking garage. Now, the gang, this is the first time they've seen Yota and Yoshioka in a while, but they notice that Koyanagi's not there, so Cap is nowhere to be seen, and I will be referring to her as Cap for the rest of time. But Cap seemingly has been wanting to avoid Shuichi and Claire. She seems to be pretty much done with them, just wanting to sever ties with them, which I get and I don't at the same time, because she seemed Cap seemed to be all about getting the coins and saving the day and yada yada, but the second she realized that yes, this is a serious game that you are playing, now that's how quick her resolve was broken. That's not the person I thought Cap was. Honestly, she kind of let me down this week. So I was I really liked you, but if that's all it took to rattle your resolve, I mean, yeah, Ikeuchi's dead, but nobody liked Ikeuchi, so who cares? I was just kind of oh, that's okay, all right. Yota didn't even really seem like he wants to be done with it. Yota gave me no signs that he wanted to be over everything that happened. He seemed like he was still ready to rock. But this whole scene of the parking garage takes an interesting turn, because obviously Claire calls out the fact that Cap's not there. And Yota's just it's not like that. It's not like she's trying to avoid you, but it clearly is. But then Shuichi hits them with the whole idea of giving their coins to Shuichi and Claire. Shuichi saying listen, you guys can go back to your regular lives. You give us your coins and we'll fix this. Let us fix this. You guys don't need to be caught up in this. Let us do this for you. Just go back to who you were before all of this. And Yota and Yoshioka seem genuinely sort of floored by that. They weren't sure. They're sort of yeah, okay, sure. But you could tell Yoshioka in particular is that's not what should be happening. Yoshioka is very much that shouldn't, no. It's, you're a good person, and you being dragged into all this, it's not right, you know, like her saying like none of us should be playing this game, not Shuichi, not the rest of us, like none of us should be playing this game. We should give our coins to somebody else who we'll get to in a second. But even Claire notices this shift in Shuichi's persona. Like his whole personality is totally different now. I shouldn't say totally different. He's still Shuichi, but his resolve is much stronger to the point where like he seems more confident, which is great, but he also seems far more cold, which is less great. And the less great, or the further into the episode we get, the less great Shuichi's resolve becomes, or rather Shuichi's character, because when you visit Shuichi's place, oh my god, this place is a total mess. I was like legit, like I was okay for a bit, but then like, cause I was like, man, this place is real dusty, but then you see the cobwebs and like the dust all over the floor, and he's like cooking food in this dusty ass kitchen, and it's like, ugh, like you live here? And how come it never looked like that before? Like it's just me realizing like, damn, Shuichi is a little crazy, but then it's not so much crazy as much as he's just sort of been mind whammied. So to him, the house probably looks totally fine. But to Claire, she sees it for what it is, that it's this absolute mess. Like, and it's just, it looked abandoned, but Shuichi's still there. So it's, to her, she's like, what the hell is going on? And this is where she realizes, like, because she asks, like, where are your parents? And Shuichi's like, oh, they usually, like, they come home usually as I'm heading to bed. So I haven't really seen them in a bit. And Claire kind of puts two and two together and is like, okay, the fact that Shuichi is seemingly blissfully unaware about the fact that there's so much grime on the walls that I can, like, literally draw happy faces on them. But also the fact that his parents are seemingly gone, and we actually do see later that Claire is right, that Elena got to them. And not just to his parents, but to the memory of his parents and what happened and her, and just basically trying to craft this perfect fake little world for Shuichi where he's away from the coin game and he doesn't have to be involved. And Claire figures this out because Claire's like, Shuichi, really listen to me and think hard. When was the last time you saw your parents? And this triggers a memory that makes Shuichi go totally berserk. And I was like, oh god, bad touch. And I was like, uh-oh, that's not good. Thankfully he snaps out of it, but it triggers a memory of Elena. And he notes that Claire has the same sort of sad scent that Elena has. And that's what sort of triggered the memory. That plus trying to remember the last time he saw his parents, and the last time he saw his parents, they were literally being erased by the ghost girl, which, like, okay, so is the ghost girl, what's going on? Like, because I thought that was Lion-O's partner. So is the ghost not Lion-O's partner? Is it actually, like, Elena's, like, connected to Elena somehow? I have no idea. All I know is she was there, and I'll admit that I'm maybe too stupid to understand what was going on there. Then we get a whole lot of middle section to the episode where, if I'm honest, like, a lot happens and then sort of like not a lot happens. Basically, we get just to peek into everybody's school life again. Claire continuing to worry about Shuichi. The cute girl is seemingly leaving town, although she will come back into play. I'm shocked the cute girl's still here. In fact, you know what? Let's just get the cute girl stuff out of the way. I don't even remember her name. The cute small girl who, like, seems to be hanging around Shuichi, like, at a distance. She's told, like, oh, that like, are you going to school out of town? Like, good for you, blah blah blah. And she's like, yeah, I guess I'll miss everybody and blah blah blah. And she still sort of is keeping her eye on Shuichi, but from a distance. And towards the end of the episode, when things get dire, she ends up bumping into Claire, and she calls out to Claire like, hey, wait. So Claire turns around like, I'm a little busy, because by this point, like, shit has hit the fan. And the friggin' cute girl gives Claire a piggyback ride, basically. Like, she rides, puts Claire on her back wheel and sort of drives her bike as close as she can to the underpass to get Claire where she needs to go by the end of the episode. So all of a sudden, it's like, was that her purpose? Like, was that the character's purpose this whole time? Was like, you need to remain in the show and pine after Shuichi from afar so that Claire has a quick way to the underpass at some point. Everybody's effective. Everybody has a use in the show. I don't know about that, but, like, I was sort of like, okay, like, that's cool. I'm sort of indifferent to this character. I'm sort of like surprised she's still in the show. I like her. She hasn't done anything to make me dislike her, but I was like, oh, you're still here? Cool, okay. And you're being helpful? Cool, okay. And she has like a little scene where she says like, I've always been watching him. It's like, oh, that's sad. Like, just like, maybe if things had gone differently, that's who Shuichi would have ended up with if he had a normal-ass life. But our boy does not have a normal-ass life. Should also say that this is the same point in time where we find out that Cap calls the pair and says like, hey, we'll hand over our coins, just meet us at the parking garage. We'll see you there. And it turns out it's all a setup by Yoshioka, who is actually handing the coins over to Elena. And this is that sort of like connects to the scene with Elena and Boy Toy, who say that if Shuichi and that thing become aware of each other, the world will end. I'm very confused. Like this episode was saying stuff, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what the hell we're talking about. Like literally, just a couple times in this episode where I'm like, yep, either I'm dumb, which is very likely, or like the show's not really explaining itself because it hasn't gotten to that point in the manga yet, or it doesn't want to explain itself quite yet. I don't super know. I don't know why the world will end if the two of them meet. Maybe that was established. I don't know. I also am not totally clear if Yoshioka brought the coins to Elena on Claire's orders, because Claire didn't really seem surprised by any of this, whereas Elena seemed surprised to see Claire and Shuichi, whereas Yoshioka didn't really seem all that surprised. So I don't know. I still think it was a double cross. I think Yoshioka was trying to protect Shuichi, like, in spite of Claire, but I don't super know. I do think it's the right call, right? Because it's like, okay, so if the world ends, if these two meet, then you can't give him the coins. And Elena probably told Yoshioka that. So I'm not faulting Yoshioka, but man, she really doesn't have a lot to do this episode, does she? Anyway, that leads to the confrontation with Elena. Some other stuff happens in between, but it's just sort of there. Claire basically shows she arrives in time to show Shuichi the stuffed animal, and we still don't really know what the connection with the stuffed animal is. We just know that it's another like thing that was at their old prep school, or cram school rather. And seeing this thing does trigger all the memories to sort of resurface for him. I'm gonna go ahead and say that my theory was, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume my theory may have been correct, in as much as like it's just something from their childhood that gives him comfort and makes him strong and courageous. So maybe that's what he needed to become in that moment. I don't know. We still don't really know why he turns into the teddy bear. I guess maybe we'd find out in a hypothetical season 2 if it ever happens. But the duo team up and basically tell Yoshioka to take their stuff and get the hell out of here, as Elena pounces, and we get to see the return of the top-tier fight animation, and this was dope. This was so dope. The fight has this intense kinetic energy to it. I was so floored by how cool it looked. It kind of took me back to episode 2 with the track girl. Like, it was that sort of caliber, but it actually sort of surpassed it, and not even sort of, it did. I wish the show had more fight scenes like this, because other fight scenes in the show have been like rather sort of stilted, whereas this had like some serious like kinetic energy. Points where it almost kind of reminded me of Shippuden, like just in terms of like the not in like the powers or anything, but just sort of in the way that the characters moved. Like there's these big exaggerated hits that like really make the character go flying. Everything felt like rubber almost. It had a lot of super cool kinetic energy to it. I really dug it. And then it gets like sort of off the rails, where Honoka starts like fighting with Shuichi in the mindscape. It gets really surreal, and then they're saved by Elena, and then Honoka says like, I don't care about monsters. I'll admit, once again, I'm like, I am so confused. I am so confused. I was with the show for so long, but I'm like, I'm so confused how she's doing that. Like, I don't, like, again, like, and if anybody thinks, like, that's a negative for me, I'm like, no, I don't care, because I know that, like, they don't, at this point in time, I don't think maybe they've gotten far enough into the manga to explain how her powers work, or what the connection is, or anything like that, so I'm not faulting the show. I just feel dumb, like, that I'm not aware of how she's doing that, or why she's doing that, or why she like isn't interested in monsters in what I don't know. Like I just felt dumb. Like, and I'm not saying the show, like I'm not saying it's the show's fault. I'm just saying like I felt dumb that I just had no clue what was going on. And honestly, like as that fight was happening, I'm like, can we go back to Elena versus Shuichi, because that was like really cool. And I loved I don't know, it just gave me like it just reminded me. I'm like, oh yeah, I really ship Claire and Shuichi, because they have like a lot of like inner like they're talking to each other as they're fighting, and like it's just, I don't know, it was sweet in a weird way. But that leads us to the final scene where Shuichi basically confirms to himself and us that he is very much not the main character. Big man Sanbei returns. It feels like this dude's been gone for ages, and we get to read the manga ending. Okay, so this is my final thought on the episode. I am very concerned that we will not get a season 2. I don't think Pine Jam will make a season 2. If it does happen, I think it'll be a different studio, which is maybe a good thing. I don't know. I think Pine Jam did really well with Gleipnir, like better than I thought they would have. Not that Pine Jam's bad, it's just they're sort of hit and miss. So I was like, okay, I like Gleipnir a lot. I really like Gleipnir, but I don't think it's going to get another season. I don't know if it was a big enough hit. I don't know if it made enough money. I guess we'll have to kind of wait and see. I'm also aware that, like, I think by this point in the story, there's only a handful of chapters that they could even adapt in the first place. So, like, regardless of whether we're getting a season 2 or not, I think we'd have to wait a while. So I think this is it. I really think this is it. And it's been a trip. Like, at the end of the day, all I wanted from Gleipnir was just a good time. And I totally got that. I wanted a fun, trashy time. And the show elevated itself genuinely beyond trash into something very interesting. It had a lot to say. It was a trashy, ecchi at points, but it used that genre to talk about some interesting stuff and explore some interesting ideas. And honestly, I really would recommend Gleipnir a lot to anybody who hasn't been checking it out. Although I don't know why you'd be watching the finale video from me if you haven't been checking it out. But yeah, I guess that's it. So yeah, I'm gonna end my final Gleipnir video here. It's been a trip. It's been a hell of a trip. But with that said, if you enjoyed today's video, or any of the Gleipnir videos for that matter, go ahead and boop that up snoot and share if you care. And of course, as always, I have to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at those beautiful names. Look at these beautiful people who would hopefully not play the coin game, but yes, look at these beautiful people. And if you would like to join these beautiful people, then be sure to go ahead and check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can help keep this channel afloat, and I would sincerely appreciate that. But with that said, everybody, I'm gonna go make myself a cup of tea and try to figure out what in the hell happened. And until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.